receptivity on the part of many people to actually hearing the technical reasons why God does not exist or why we don't believe God exists?
Well, I don't know about a hunger for it. I've found a lot of belief in belief, if I can put it like that. People say, well, you ought to believe in something. President Eisenhower used to say that, you remember? He used to say, well, it's very important that you have a real faith, and I don't really mind which one it is. Sort of Republican ecumenicism of a rather tepid sort, but that goes, unfortunately, rather too well with certain kinds of soft multiculturalism. In other words, fine, you know, you be a Jain, and I'll be a Muslim, and you be Orthodox, and so forth. It's kind of oppressive, I'm okay, you're okay, multicultural drizzle. I think that all the ontological arguments for the existence of God were overthrown a long time ago. In fact, were overthrown well before Darwin and Einstein. But that now, which is why I gave the example I did give, now that we do have a rough idea of the age and origin of our species and of our cosmos, that it simply isn't possible for religion to do the reverse engineering it once did. No one would believe in this stuff if they started off knowing where we came from and how. It's just, it has the advantage of being the first and the worst explanation because we are pattern-seeking primates, and that's a good thing, obviously. It gives us the itch of curiosity and innovation, but it also means that we will prefer very often a conspiracy theory or a junk theory to no theory at all. So that's the epistemological question that has to be resolved, and I believe that we've succeeded in doing that. No, I prefer to argue that it would be horrible if it were true. I mean, I'm not an atheist, in other words, I'm an anti-theist. I don't, in myself, have any desire to live under a permanent, unalterable dictatorship. I don't wish it was true that I could be convicted of thought crime for what I was thinking when I was asleep, let alone for what I was thinking when I was awake. And I don't wish for a dictatorship I had no part in choosing that would not cease to torment me after I had died. I mean, I've actually been to all three of the axis of evil countries, and some other countries too, where the citizen is the permanent property of the state. When I was in Christian prep school, I used to wonder what heaven would be like if it really did consist of everlasting praise. Sounded like hell to me. But I couldn't picture it. And nobody can, of course, but I've seen the nearest approximation to it, which is North Korea, where it is the only duty and job and right of a citizen to eternally praise the divine leader and his divine father. I'll expatiate it a little if you like. North Korea is only one short of a trinity. Kim Jong-il is only the head of the party and the army. He's not the head of the state. The head of the state is his dead father, dead for 15 years. It's a necrocracy. Or I tried this, a thanatocracy, a mausolocracy. And it's a life of constant groveling misery and fear and praise and thanks for the tiny handouts that you get. It's impossible to describe the nothingness of the life of a North Korean. But at least you can fucking die and leave North Korea. And with religious totalitarianism, there is no escape. It is absolute, it's complete, it's utter, it's horrifying. Now, I say freely, non serviam. I don't want that, and I don't respect anyone who does. So if they could prove it was true, I'd say you have all your work still ahead of you. But what a good thing it is that there's no evidence at all for such an obscene proposition. There.
First, I'd like to say that I truly appreciate the sense of humor of the speakers and the audience here. I think that's one thing that goes sort of underestimated amongst atheists, is that they're a funny lot. My question is...
as opposed to the numerous comedians who run the monotheistic world.
They don't realize they're being funny. Obviously, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have been very divisive and controversial, but there is definitely a school of thought that says that this is an ideological war that the West had to fight or should fight against Islamic fundamentalism and religious extremism in general. And I know you've been outspoken on this, but I would like you to, if you don't mind, to just expound a bit on how you feel about the rectitude of this being an ideological war that needs to be fought.
Well, it's an ideological war in the sense that I was just hoping to indicate, that it's against a very vicious form of totalitarianism. A form, because totalitarianism will tend not to be content just with dominating the country that it happens to own. It doesn't want its citizens to be able to compare notes with other countries. It doesn't want there to be other countries where that comparison can be made. It will always have an aggressive tendency. If this is theocratic, then it has an even more sinister and equally matching tendency, which is this. Try and run a society out of a holy book, and I'll tell you what will happen. It's been tried. All the children's teeth will fall out. Okay? The elevator won't go all the way to the top of the building. There won't be enough food. There will be terrible microorganisms dining long and well on everyone in the society. That just will happen if you do this. But when this failure, this terrible state failure comes, there is no means by which you can blame the failure on yourself. You cannot be self-critical about it. Why, therefore? Why is there hardly a blade of grass growing between Kandahar and Kabul? Why is there misery? Why are there fistulas and ulcers everywhere? Because of the Jewish Crusader conspiracy, obviously, which means we must export our violence and failure by force to other countries. Well, we have no chance of ducking this confrontation. Since I think I understand some of the backstory of your question, I shall say now that anyone who says that there's a possibility of withdrawal from any of these countries is fooling themselves and trying to fool others. If we didn't learn one thing from 9/11 that seemed to me self-evident and obvious, we should have done. There is no over there and over here. For one thing, it's over here and censoring the Washington Post, and for another, when it breeds state failure and rogue statism, that's an immediate, imminent, direct threat to us, which I do not think was ever exaggerated. To the contrary, I believe the President and the Vice President hugely understated the threat that was caused by societies like Iran and Afghanistan. People who say they inflated it are fools. And I relish the confrontation. And I think the 82nd Airborne is guarding us while we sleep. And I think that they're creating the space for my Iraqi and Kurdish and Afghan secular friends in a context in which otherwise they'd all be dead, and we would have done nothing to help them. So, more than I thought. A little better than I thought, but not good enough. You are involved in this fight, don't try and pretend you're not. And it will be going on only for the rest of your life, so you better decide quite soon which side you're on, and how much have you done lately to help the fighters against religious terrorism in Afghanistan and Iran. What have you done lately to do anything about that? Ask that. It's too easy to blame it all on Bush and Cheney. Very well. I'll take any more questions on that if I haven't been clear enough.
This is on something else. You have a couple of really brilliantly succinct ways of sort of exposing the arrogance of religious people in claiming moral high ground and in claiming the provenance of morality by religion. But sometimes I feel that the best authors among you, and the best speakers particularly, because you're limited in time when you speak, can sort of appear to have a facile treatment of how we, or maybe can fail to sort of stand up for the secular values in a positive way that we espouse. And my question, I suppose, would be made clearer by pointing out that there's a lot in our biology that we know we want to leave behind. There are a lot of biological antecedents to some of the things that women have to face in the world still today. Of course, they're made sacred by religion, but I'm wondering if you could brilliantly articulate in 2 minutes exactly what the principle is that you use to derive your morality.
Well, I can't do it aphoristically, I don't think, for you, because I'm sorry to say your question wasn't epigrammatic enough. Didn't give me enough of an erection. But